How you doing? Vic here, along with Skunk Manhattan. Welcome back to the Eclectic Soundtrax Podcast. We've been away for a couple of weeks, but before we kick it off, Skunk, let me go into this intro here real quick. So, Austin, Texas, known as the music capital of the world. At any time during the week, you can find music at various venues. You can attend one of the many music festivals that happen throughout the year. Some notable ones are South by Southwest. I think everybody knows that one. Definitely everybody knows ACL Festival, Blues on the Green, a whole bunch of others that we have throughout the year. So at any corner, any climate, any place, you can find live music and hang out, enjoy it, grab a beer, spend some time with friends. One music festival in particular we're going to talk about today that we're kicking off the podcast with is Skunk Fest, which is the nom de plume and we're going to talk about when it started, how it started, why it started. But first, we're going to catch up a little bit since we've been out for a couple of weeks, as people may have noticed. So, what's been going on, man?
I'm like the guest today, I guess.
I guess you are like the guest. You're going to be interviewing yourself.
I'll interview myself. Well, no, I made a vow to talk less on our second round of podcast. I feel like we got about, was it 84 or 85? Because we came out the gate really hitting them like 2 a week kind of in 2020 when
we were bored back then. Yeah.
And then they got less and less. We got more and more busy. And then a couple of weeks, like you said, it's been a couple of weeks since we've done one. But I've been good,
Yeah, well, good deal, man. When we first started, it was just we just jumped on and just bullshitted a whole lot with people we knew.
Yeah,
had some fun. We're gonna try something a little bit different. We're gonna make it a little more structured this time, I think. So here's something that we were thinking about, and maybe the audience will appreciate this, is that for each and every podcast, we're gonna create a playlist. We talked to all these great bands, right? So might as well make a playlist. 8 to 10 songs, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less for each episode. And so the cool thing is they don't have to be musicians, right? They could be just anybody that we know that's interesting to talk to. And maybe we ask them about like, hey, what did you listen to in high school? Or, what's your favorite?
Well, I feel like that seems to be age contingent, because I've noticed from younger generation and kids these days, it often ask the question like, so what do you listen to? Are you into any bands? What's your favorite band? I don't know, just kind of everything, whatever, video game stuff. But in our day, it was you had your favorite band, man. And like, obviously we talked about this on our very first podcast when we sort of introduced ourselves and talked and how we met years back in a Spanish class, and I've just kind of bonded through, similar taste in music and just kind of hung out and, talk music a lot. And, so that years later, 15 years later, it kind of led to us beginning this podcast, and which is not completely contingent on, musician guests, but I think that's a central theme, and this idea you had of the playlist is perfect for that, creating a playlist around every podcast and really getting inside of
not to get too nostalgic, but I think back in the day we used to go and buy a tape or CDs when they came out, or even if you had records, right, you'd buy the whole thing.
Records were kind of fizzling out, and CDs were this big new exciting thing, and now it's the complete opposite. CDs are these dinosaurs, and vinyl's back with a vengeance, and it's actually really cool. I'm loving the vinyl thing. I'm hoping to do vinyl for at Skunk Fest, which is November 16th, Saturday, November 16th, back at Come and Take It Live here in Austin, Texas, where we did the first few. We did several there. Yeah. And then COVID happened and things, got wrecked for a few years. And then we
threw it off the rails.
Threw it off the rails. And then we went in 2022 with a whole different kind of vibe and everything at Rail House in Kyle, which I love that venue. But I learned that, it was cold. And I learned that, I'm not going to roll the dice on a November date. And that was kind of because they had always been in the summer, but because of a touring schedule I had with the Invincible Czars, it needed to be later that year. And it was awesome. The lineup and everything was just unbelievable. Such great talent that year, and it was, I learned a lot from that, but the weather was rough on us. And we're back indoors this year at Come and Take It, which is always great. And they've always been great to us. So, I lost my train of thought already. Darn, we made it like 10 minutes into a podcast before I just rambled myself into oblivion.
No, it's good. It's good.
I was stating the date. For some reason. Yeah, November 16th. But who knows? I'll find it. I'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you talked about starting it off. COVID got in the way, because I do remember you had some shows that were scheduled that year.
Oh yeah.
And I think you had. Were you doing one in San Antonio or something? Right.
Yeah, we did. Well, that was on. So what happened was, like, there was an Invincible. I'd just done one tour with the Invincible Czars in 2019, and we'd only done the East Coast that year. I had only done the East Coast, and then we were all ramping up and ready to go for an April West Coast tour. And I had been out in San Francisco, and then I came back, and I remember there was a show with both The Good Rogering and RuneScarred were playing, bands I'm obviously in, and boy, like right at that time, everyone was weird, kind of fist bumping. Some people were like, oh, whatever, give me a hug. And other people like, started to wear masks, and it was just a weird vibe. And it was a really great night, but everybody knew and sensed. And I knew coming back from California when that ship or whatever was quarantined, and things were really getting weird, even a month in February 2020. And then I remember I was like, man, it's coming. It's just a matter of time before things get really bad. And the whole thing happened in Kent, Washington with the nursing home. Remember that? It was like, that was like, and then all of a sudden within a week's time, the whole country shut down, and we just lived in this surreal, bizarro world for a while. But so I remember playing that last show, and the Czars were kind of like, are we going? Are we not? Are we doing safety precautions? We don't know what to expect. And then everything was just like a flip of a switch was just done. So all that touring, all that stuff got canceled. There was no Skunk Fest that year. And then I tried to come back in 2021. And I think that was that would have been the year we did one in San Antonio.
Right.
And I won't go into specifics, but that was a disappointment. And it wasn't based on any of the bands. It was just poor management, not on my part, and some unfortunate situations. But then I had a whole big thing set up here at Empire Control Room. And
I remember that.
And then whatever the latest strand, we thought we were kind of out of the woods, and then a big outbreak happened again, and several bands got it, and people were dropping out and freaking out. And so we just had to pull the plug. I mean, I'd spent all this time and effort trying to set it up, and that whole thing just got canceled. So after that, I was just like, okay, not going to worry about it until 2022. Things came back around. It was late in the year. And so that's when I did it. And then the last few years for me, though, have been a lot of new things going on, heftier touring and in conjunction with some other things. So I really just decided to take last year off. And then this year, and bringing Skunk Fest back, like I said, to come and take over where it started and everything. So yeah, it's a little more localized and regional. We had national acts and stuff come in 2022. So this one's, I think, a little more chill. And I'm really looking forward to it, man. Yeah. Everyone that's on board with this is really stoked to be a part of it. And I feel like it's got a great communal vibe. Some of the bands I've met, some are friends, people I've played with and known for years. Some of them we've had as guests on our podcast. Some of them are bands that I've met just in the last year through touring around, Texas and stuff. And so I think it's going to be a really good blend and just a lot of good people and friends.
What was the first year? Was it 2019 or 2018?
Yeah.
Okay, 2018. And that was at Come and Take It. I remember that, because then there was the mobile truck outside that was printing T-shirts.
Yeah, Fresh Baked Tees. They've been at every one of our events except for the 2020 I think I actually had one scheduled in 2020 and everything fell apart, and then we ended up having a really small show that summer. So it wasn't really a Skunk Fest, but it was kind of the residuals of a few bands that still wanted to play. And then everything was so crazy. The next year, another thing that made things difficult was, and I've been wanting to do this for a while too, the Lifeblood, which is A Good Rogering's second album, came out in 2013. We wanted to do a 10-year anniversary of that last year, but it was the routings and reschedulings from tours post-COVID. Things were so messed up. Like, so many things got rearranged because all these huge tours took priority, had to get they were just gonna, again,
your audio cut out. I don't know.
Where did you lose me? Did I get to the Lifeblood thing or not?
Okay, yeah. So we started. Let's talk about Lifeblood, because Lifeblood, what, 11 year?
Yeah, so we're calling it Lifeblood Goes to 11, right? So that we're going to play that album this year at Skunk Fest, since we weren't able to do it last year.
Right. And yeah, because you'd mentioned something about the routing, the tour routing, because COVID had messed it up. They were like prioritizing all these other bands.
Yeah, and it was kind of weird for like a good solid year, and it was just really hard to get like the normal things that weren't too big of a deal to set up a show. There was just so many like rescheduled tours, all this juggling and stuff. So, and with the Czars touring that I had last year, like the biggest tour they had done to date, I was just like, I'm just not going to like bother with it and make my life overly complicated. And so we just decided to wait. And yeah, and like I said, and I feel great because I feel like it's just given us time to prepare. I was able to set this Skunk Fest up. It's more relaxed, and I feel less stressed going into it, not coming off the heels of a tour or anything like that either. So yeah, finally all this stuff has panned out. And we're back, and we're going to be playing the Lifeblood album. So that's going to be fun, man. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, you did have a pretty heavy tour schedule the last couple of years, touring with the Czars. And then you did some, the AGR did some touring here,
we
pretty recently. Yeah.
Yeah, the last 2 years we both toured, like, and the Czars just got bigger. I mean, that was the thing. It was the centennial anniversary of the iconic silent film Nosferatu, right? For anybody that doesn't know the Invincible Czars, who we did have as an early guest on this show, where have been kind of a staple of Austin in a way for about, almost 20 years, I guess about 20 years now. And started out as just kind of a quirky Zappa Bungle kind of influenced rock band. They would always play shows with these kind of like off-color bands like Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum and a Stratosphere, really progressive instrument, really complex music, or Secret Chiefs 3, this kind of stuff. And so they kind of morphed from that, and then they got known. I remember when I first moved to Austin and started seeing their name in the Chronicle and stuff, it was they were doing the Nutcracker. They started playing these holiday shows, and they dress up and do these Tchaikovsky stuff, and so they put out the Nutcracker and the Overture of 1812, kind of reimagined versions of these songs. And so I always kind of knew who they were. And then in 2017, I think, after I had toured with the band Dead Earth Politics, who was kind of a metal staple of Austin, and a good Rogering, we came up together. We used to always play shows with those guys. And I toured with them on their last tour, and you could kind of see the band unraveling a bit. But after that, there was some talk of like, hey, we want to keep this going. Just under new moniker, we'll write new material. And so I was invited to be a part of that. And Josh Robbins, head czar at the time, was kind of going through some transition stuff and had come off of a rigorous tour. And I think he wanted to try something else and just, have some fun playing something different out of his wheelhouse. So he was going to play bass for that band. And that's how we met. The first rehearsal that I ever showed up to was at his house, and had all this Invincible Czars stuff everywhere. And I was like, oh, yeah, the Invincible Czars. Oh, cool. Okay. So that's how we met. And we played in that band together for a while. Josh was in that band for first couple of years, first album. And then, and then needed someone to tour in 2019. So that's when I hopped on board and then became more involved, kind of these soundtracks. Like I jumped on, we were touring on that was going to be our first run at Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, which is another iconic, amazing German Impressionist film, 1922. Yeah, because we just did 1920 was that one, and then Nosferatu was 1922. Not that it matters, but my point, there is a point here. So I kind of started, writing a little bit, putting piano. There was no piano really in these films, and so that's kind of what I brought into that. And now I've become much more involved as a writer with Phantom of the Opera, because that's the one this will be the biggest touring next year probably. I think we're gonna do 3 to 4 months next year. Like it's going to be huge touring on Phantom of the Opera for its centennial of the 1925 Lon Chaney film. But Nosferatu had turned 100 in 2022, right off the heels of this big COVID thing. And it was kind of the perfect storm for the Czars, because it's been building this touring circuit for a decade or more, right? Started at the original Alamo Drafthouse, writing for and playing to these silent films. I think they've done 9 films now in Austin. And this has just grown and expanded. And so I think with that being such an iconic movie and the centennial anniversary of that movie, him having built up this kind of fan base, right? And also people just really wanting to get out and do stuff because they've been locked up from COVID. When we went on the road in 2022, it was incredible. I mean, we were just selling out theaters all over the place. So it it was like, wow. And usually it had been like a month west, a month east kind of thing, separated, right? One spring, one fall, kind of in the Halloween season. This time we just did an August through, kind of late August through early November, just all in one huge tour. And so that worked great. And so we did the same thing last year with Caligari. And then we decided to take this year off and just focus on writing because those tours were freaking exhausting. and we didn't really want to rush a new movie. We wanted to do it right. And I think everything is better for it. I think we're going to be more fresh. We're just doing some Texas shows. Everybody can check out invinciblezars.com. That is October. We always play Dallas, Texas Theater, famous Texas Theater, October 30th. And then here, Alamo Drafthouse, October 31st, which is already sold out. So we added a second show. We're playing AFS on the 19th of October. And and so there's just a handful: Houston, San Antonio, Laredo, Corpus. That's it, like 7 or 8 shows, I think. And then next year will be the whole country, the whole U.S., all of Canada. It's going to be massive. But so that's obviously been occupying a lot of my time with that. And
busy.
Yeah, gotten busier.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, same here. All right, so Skunk Fest. I remember back in the day during South by, you guys would play Heart of Texas Rock Festival, or what was that called? Festival,
well,
right?
I think it was called the Heart of Texas something or other, because there were these 2 partners that did it, and then one of them split, and then it was just like Texas Rock Fest. Which I won't. I'm trying to not be my old self where I just rant and curse up a storm in here to try to be a little more adult and mature, I suppose. But I can't promise I won't rant ever again. But the gist of that is we had some really good experiences with that, and we played for some big crowds and had a lot of fun. But I started to see with the way that was run, I mean, the whole idea was, hey, these musicians, you pitch a fee and you're probably not going to get into South by Southwest, but everybody wants to play at that time, especially when you're a young band. It was an alternative. They had several venues. They had a big outdoor stage downtown. So your odds of, depending on when you played during the festival, the music portion of the festival, you might be playing for a pretty good crowd. And they had all the food trucks and the whole thing. So it was really cool. But I kind of saw it start to diminish in quality, and then I saw the bands getting charged to play, and I just said, man, this sucks. I mean, I understand it from both angles now, because I've done a festival and I understand, I've kind of worn a lot of hats and get it and from both camps, right? But my initial goal is still the same. I want things to be for the musicians, to showcase bands, to showcase artists. And I even, that was the thing I did at the last Skunk Fest. I mean, I had contracts with national acts, and it was a new thing for me, but I made sure everybody got paid no matter what happened. I took care of the musicians. That was very important to me as a musician, right? As someone who's been through all this. And so, then that's still my goal. I've just learned, I'm learning every time. But I remember we were sitting down. Everybody knows Kiss guy, Yayo, right?
Yeah.
So just happened to run into Yayo one night after some function or whatever, and we were hanging out with him. And I remember talking about Rockfest and being kind of disappointed and just like, yeah, man, I just think it's lame. The musicians have to pay, and they're still like, they're raising all this money from tips and that. It's like, it doesn't seem fair. And I had done a raffle years with Tragan Guitars and brought in money. I was always, I never had to pay because I was always, offering something in return, right, and trying to raise money for it. Right. And then, but I think the last one we did, I was very disappointed. I went and found the guitar that was supposed to be raffled, like just laying behind the stage, up against a fence in a pile of dirt. And I was like, why is this not being what the, it was ridiculous. Yeah. And so I was kind of done with it at that point. And I think I was kind of ranting about this a little bit one night to Yayo, and Yayo just goes, "You should start your own festival." And I was like, "Yeah, Skunk Fest. I'll just start my own festival." So like I needed to put something else on my plate, especially something of that magnitude. But lo and behold, a few years later, I did it, and the first Skunk Fest was really cool, man. And it was really, really cool, and everybody loved it and appreciated it, and it was a blast. And the next one was great too. And, just been trying new things each time. And like I said, I'm kind of pulling it back this year a little more to like what the first one was. And it was just kind of exciting because I think there was just everyone was just kind of knew each other. It was regional. everyone was excited to be there, and and that's what I want, right? It's not some big money corporate thing. It's sure, I would love to have it grow and be, like I want it to become a legitimate thing, but like, and that can bring in, money and all that kind of stuff for everybody. But I think that was kind of what spurred it. And I mean, just like with this podcast, even though we took a couple of weeks off, like usually when I get my fingers in something and I start something, I don't like to walk away from it. Like, I really can't. I just, I mean, I've had my band for over 15 years, and the band Quarter Shackle that I was in, nearly 2 decades ago that disbanded. I mean, we had an album come out and everything, which is it's a kick-ass album, man. It's a really good, if you like hard rock, kind of grunge metal, fusion, stuff, guitar solos and all that early 90s business, like, you'll probably dig it. And it was kind of sitting on a shelf. We had physical copies, and it was only available in a very select few places online. And it just drove me up the wall. I was like, no, let's make this damn thing streaming. We worked on it all this time, so finally it's been remastered and it's out there and it's great. I mean, it's gotten a lot of positive response too. So, I mean, I feel the same way. Like, it's not easy. It's more work and stuff, but I just don't like to bail on things that I've been really involved in, I mean, it really is contingent on, like I said, last year I didn't do Skunk Fest. Would have been too much. So it is contingent on what, and I've had to drop a few things, but I guess as I get older, I'm really trying to find out like what things are the most important to me, and where do I want to, put my eggs, so to speak, and keep pushing on. And I mean, for whatever reason, that's a thing that it is important to me, a communal effort to have musicians, especially original bands, play together and come together. So, I intend to keep Skunk Fest going. I kind of want to flip the interview on you, Vic, and see what you've been up to. You know what I mean? So, because I mean, when we started this podcast, and I know you're doing so much, part of when this started, you had started doing, I think, some voiceover training or something. We're wanting to get into voiceover work. Mm-hmm. And so we had talked about doing the podcast and everything. Of course, everyone who listened to it, whenever I wasn't rambling and you got your 2 cents, and everyone's like, "Oh man, Vic's got the best podcast voice." And then I'd hear myself over here going like, "Blah blah blah." Yeah, it's annoying how good your voice is. But you're doing voiceover work, you're doing acting, and you had also, one of our first guests was Yuri. Sorry, Yuri, I don't know how to say your last name. He's going to come back on the show. Can't wait to have Yuri back. But a friend of yours from the tech world, right? Mm-hmm. And author among bodybuilder. What a fascinating
bodybuilder,
amazing person. I love Yuri. He's amazing, man. What an inspiration that guy is. And that's a great episode. I think that was episode number 2. I think he was our first actual guest after our first episode of our introductions, like we're doing now. Yep. So and I don't know if that was a catalyst. I don't think it was a catalyst, but it just coincided with when we started the podcast. I think you were intending to, or had just started getting into jiu-jitsu, and now fast forward, I mean, you're very involved in jiu-jitsu, even teaching to some degree. You're doing voiceover for work. You're doing acting. So yeah, man, tell us about what's been going on with you these last few years.
Oh yeah. So yeah, still in the tech world. I actually was laid off last year, so I spent about 8 months, 9 months unemployed, and so really the only thing that sustained me was acting gigs, right? A lot more screen acting, commercials, a lot of commercials. I just booked one of my first feature film roles, which should be filming at the end of this month, I think. Awesome. Beginning of next month. So it's just for me, it's just like a 2-day shoot, and I think the whole shoot's going to be a few weeks. So I've got a little part in that one. So a little more info to come once all that gets hammered out. Right, they're still working on all the storyboards and the shot placements and things like that. The shot list.
Are you shooting that here in town, or?
It's going to be close. It's going to be, I think it's up northeast, I think. So, okay. But it's going to be around Austin. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's cool. But yeah, like when we started, I had started doing voiceover training because like everybody else, I was at home and I was just scrolling through social media, and I actually happened to find I think it's that Austin events page or something, like a little Facebook page that says, "Hey, this is what's going on in Austin this week." Mm-hmm. Right. But apparently there had been at some venue somewhere. It's like, "Hey, are you curious about voiceover?" And I've always been really, just into just different voices and things like that. Just watching Futurama. Real big Futurama fan. So I was like, yeah, what the hell, let me check it out. And so just learned a little bit more about it. And there's a lot more than just animation and video games. There's a ton of stuff. There's a ton of work available for voiceover. You still have to work your butt off and submit auditions left and right. I've kind of slacked these last few months because of some screen acting gigs, but I'm starting to get back into it. But yeah, that's how I got started. And so once I finished that little course, I ended up with 2 demo reels, a commercial demo and a narration demo, which I held on to. And I wanted to there's a lot of acting that you have to do, the same type of acting skills that you use in screen acting. So I was looking for acting classes, and I happened to find another workshop. It was screen acting, but I took it for the sole purpose of being a better voice actor. But I ended up filming a demo reel at the end of this course, and I got picked up by an agent, and I've been working ever since. So I've been getting little commercial jobs. The first one was QVC, like a little Christmas commercial filmed in like September. So I'm out in Lockhart.
Yeah,
I think it was Lockhart. Wearing a sweater in September, and it was, I don't know, 90 something degrees outside, and the house didn't have any air conditioning, and I have to, pretend that I'm, it's nice and chilly. Yeah.
When was that? Was that last year or 2 years ago now?
No, it was maybe 3 years ago.
Wow. Okay. So really 2021, that long? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
3 years. And so, yeah, I've just been doing little gigs here and there ever since, mostly commercial stuff, but commercials pay pretty well. I mean, it's a pretty interesting job. I'm not affiliated with SAG or anything just yet, just because of there's more jobs available if you're not in the union, if that makes sense.
I don't even know if this is a question you want to answer, but what are you have an agent. Is that where all of your work comes, or do you seek things out online? Like, I know there's different companies and websites that you Backstage, stuff like that. Do you get gigs from that kind of stuff, or?
Most of my jobs come from the agent. Like, she'll send over stuff via like casting networks or Actors Access, which anybody can create an account and sign up, right? Create a profile and submit themselves. Agents tend to see a little bit more jobs available than what's just on the job boards. They'll get jobs from casting directors directly that maybe other people won't see, and so then they shoot those, depending, if they fit your demographics, they'll shoot them over. And so I've gotten I think last year I was actually in her most booked actor.
Oh, wow.
In her agency. So
cool.
That was pretty cool. It's been slow this year, but I was talking with a casting director on an HEB shoot last month, and I'm like, dude's name is Michael, really cool guy. And I'm like, hey, is it just me, or is casting, is it just a slow year? And he goes, no, it's a very slow year this year.
Wasn't there the writer's strike? Wasn't that earlier this year, or no?
Yeah, there was a writer's strike
last year. I guess I'm getting my years confused. I remember being on tour and that was going on. So maybe
I think it was end of last year, part of this year, I think, if I remember right. I believe so.
Someone else that would be cool to have as a guest, if they would be receptive. Met that retired Foley artist, man.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So the writer's strike affected TV and film. There were a couple of exceptions that were going on. There were a couple of movies and a couple of Netflix shows that I got auditions for that had some exceptions, or they were filming in other countries and they didn't have to, totally different rules, right?
Yeah.
But I didn't get those, obviously. So
you're still here.
I'm still here.
Vic moved to Vietnam for work.
Yeah, man. Hey, yeah.
Dude, I want to go to Southeast Asia. Remember? Oh God, what was his name, dude? I'm so bad. The guy, such a cool dude, man. Yeah, and he lives in Southeast Asia. Like, I forget, what was he in? Singapore or Indonesia or something?
Which one? I know the guy you're talking about. Yeah, but he just plays gigs there the whole time. That's all he does.
Yeah. Now I know. We've even talked before. I'm like, I would love to go over there, man.
Yeah.
How far back was he on our show? We should talk about a few episodes. Teague, man, that was
Teague.
Teague.
That's right.
Yeah.
Teague. Yeah. So Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I've been up to. I just started a new 9 to 5 to keep paying the bills because I'm not to the place where my acting is sustaining me. As far as jiu-jitsu, yeah, I just started like right when COVID had locked everything down,
and that was brand new, right? Atomic was brand new at the time.
Brand new, yeah.
Yeah, and you've seen that grow. You've kind of been there from the get-go.
Yeah. I wasn't part of the first families, but I wasn't too far behind. But
right.
Yeah, I've come up through there. I'm coaching every week,
and now
twice
you're a red
week.
Belt. No,
I'm a little too young for a red belt, but yeah, coaching at least twice a week. Doing private lessons, doing test preps, and testing people into.
It was cool to come see you test for your purple belt, man. That was intense.
That was brutal.
That was intense. Yeah.
Oh my gosh! And the air conditioners broke too. The AC's just
on the day of the testing, or what?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Yeah.
It was a little toasty in there, but
wow.
And I was like, I'm ready for this. And before the test, probably the couple of weeks prior to the test, I had run through the entire test with some other guys that were testing, and I felt fine. I was ready to go. Come test day, we were about halfway through all the judo throws, and I was just breathing hard. And I was looking over at the other guys, and they were breathing hard too. And I'm like, why is it so tough today? Like, why is it hard? And then after that, of course, after the technique piece, then you see the Shark Tank for a whole hour, right? You got to watch that. Yeah, that was fun.
Well, was it just the intensity of being in the moment of actually testing, or the AC, or a combination of factors you think that just had you winded sooner?
I think it was a combination.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Maybe the AC was no accident. It was like, I'm gonna. These guys think they're ready.
It was still broken. I did the really smart thing of coming in for class on Monday, even though I was still hurting. It took me about 2 weeks to recover from that test.
Oh, I imagine, dude.
My body was so sore and I was just drained. But I came in Monday and the AC was still broke, so we drilled. We did our class and then we rolled. And
yeah, I won't say much about myself. I'd love to get more involved when I have time and whatnot. But like, it was cool going, some here and there between touring and whatnot. But yeah, man, it got me back into, because I had done jiu-jitsu like so long ago, like when I was 19 for a little bit, and really enjoyed it. And then you fast forward and it's like, oh no, my body can't just I don't think it's weird. And I found out very quickly how out of shape I was. And it's kind of a few things, that being one factor, really kind of got me motivated to get back into the gym and just get myself in better shape, man. So that became a priority for me again. And I'm happy to say I've lost a reasonable amount of weight, but
good for you.
Yeah, man. Dude. I mean, it's all about the cardio. Now, it's funny because I had not watched. That was another thing way back when we, not right around the time we met. Not too long after that, I joined that band Quarter Shackle. I started kind of playing. Was lucky enough to get to play the back room and stuff like that. And we had Penny Rock Productions, who, if you need to see that documentary, man. I'm not sure. They've done a lot of premieres, and I was at one of them at AFS, and it's so good. They really did a great job.
Yeah,
and working with them on a good Rogering video, another handout, was a pleasure too. Fantastic guys, very professional, very quality work. I was very, very impressed with the film. And
it's a good video, like your video too.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
I mean, everybody just knocked it out of the park. We shot for 2 days, and it was a tall order. And all the guests we had, it was so. Honestly, everything was just like a couple of takes, if that. I mean, Boudreaux knew what he wanted. I was very meticulous. I mean, it was the most I've prepared too. Like, just wrote and revised the script. We went back and forth, like really had it down. And then it was like, okay, here's where we're going. Here's what we got. There was a few things we're like, oh, I hope this, do we have time? Is so-and-so going to be here? And everything worked out. And we were just like, hit it, got right to it. It was shot after shot. He'd be like, cool. Okay, we're going to do this. Okay, one more. Next. Boom, boom, boom. And I've never worked with someone either that edited that fast. It was like he got me a cut in like 2 weeks, if that.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit. This is usually I like to sit down and, be pretty hands-on. And with him, dude, I literally went and met at his place one time after he sent me the cut, and we were there for maybe 20 minutes and it was done. So it was awesome. Yeah. So Penny Rock, they're one of the sponsors for Skunk Fest this year too. So they'll be getting some footage and stuff, and we're going to do they're going to do a sizzle reel. So yeah, man. I mean, what led me to that, having those guys on, this is what happens with that train of thought. But nonetheless, I wanted to plug
so we went
anyway.
Jiu-Jitsu to working out, and then we started talking about Penny Rock.
Yes. I don't know what the correlation is there. Working out. Well, there is a correlation. If you watch me running in that video, I like to joke and say that was character acting. Like I was, because it was this whole video is like I
saw you running, and my knees hurt watching you run.
Horrible. I look so ridiculous, and I'm very hefty. And I said, it's character acting. I put on the weight for, dude, that was probably the heaviest I was. I mean, I was up to nearly 240 during COVID.
Oh, shit.
During that video, I'm guessing I was at least somewhere between 220 and 230, and now I've gotten down to around 200. So,
at least you weren't doing the Steven Seagal run.
It's pretty close. I mean, like Steven Seagal's, Steven Seagal wouldn't even be running. He'd be sitting in a chair, and someone else, he'd have a stunt double running. So I did it myself. Everyone was like impressed with how fast I could move, but I also was like, I look ridiculous. And the biggest comments we got on that video were the Monte Carlo. Wow, where'd you get that Monte Carlo?
The Monte Carlo was badass, yeah.
The Monte Carlo I was so nervous driving that car, not my car, and I was just like, oh my God, please. And I'm not known for being a good driver. and then my running, which is the opening sequence. So, pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, great video, best video you've ever seen. And it was just like, man, I was so stoked to work with those guys and very proud of that video. But yeah, back to the gym, doing that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I hope to do more jiu-jitsu. One thing I was talking about, or back to jiu-jitsu, I hadn't really been in, I went off on the whole backroom thing because I was talking about when we met.
That's right.
And we used to hang out. And another thing we were kind of into back then when I started teaching around that time was we would hang out, we would watch like UFC fights, right? But I don't think I had really done that since 2005, 6 in that realm, maybe a few years that, but I mean, it had been probably close to 15 years before I really kind of got back into that. And guys I had never even heard of, like John Jones, I was like, oh my God, dude, I've been like watching all that dude's fights. It's insane. Like that guy is insane. Like, I don't even know how long ago his fights were. Like, I can't keep up, but yeah, it's kind of cool to have gotten back into it a little bit. I kind of dismissed it for a while, but I've just, it's kind of, got me back into that sport a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the way we have the curriculum set up is pretty, makes it easy to dive in without having to be in great shape or in any shape at all, having to, have any type of background or anything like that. It's a very straightforward curriculum, but the biggest takeaway, and this is the reason why I started, right, was I was doing all this travel for work, like everywhere, right, flying to different cities and then different conferences, which I actually just did a conference this week, and I'm still kind of tired, but anyway, I got complacent, right, being a military vet. I used to be in shape and ready to go, and then just work travel, working a regular 9 to 5. I just got fat. I got complacent. And then I just started thinking, I'm like, man, what am I going to do if I get jumped if I'm in a city? Because I remember going to Baltimore, right, to visit a client. And, you go to Whole Foods and right across the street, it just gets sketchy as hell. And then I'm like, man, okay, I'm pretty sure I could handle myself. And then, taking those first jiu-jitsu classes, I'm like, oh crap, okay, I need to.
You learn real quick.
Yeah, you learn real quick. But the entry level, the beginner classes that we teach there is not only get you familiar with the fundamentals, right? Gives you all the fundamental concepts, teaches you the fundamental arm bars and positional controls and basically controlling a human. But it also teaches you the self-defense piece too, which I think is why people latched onto it with that first UFC fight with Royce, right?
Yeah.
Not your dog, but the actual Royce Gracie.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know I was one of the many millions that was just immediately hooked on it. And obviously they did a great job of bringing that to the States and marketing it, and and it's just been a global phenomenon ever since. But another thing I liked about the Atomic was the Muay Thai factor too, man. I did that a few times, and that's something I had never done. I'd never boxed. Like, I know you've got a boxing background. I'd never done any of that in my life. I only done jiu-jitsu and like taekwondo when I was like, 8. That doesn't count, And so it's like, man, you want to talk about cardio. I was just like, I've never been so gassed in my life. You think like, oh yeah, dude, I could do that.
Yeah.
No, do it. Not even for 5 minutes. Do it for like 3 minutes. And I wanted to puke, man. Like, I was like, I am so out of shape right now. It's horrible.
And it starts off pretty easy with like maybe 1 or 2 strikes. Right?
It's not even hard, but it's exhausting.
Yeah,
it's exhausting. Simple
combo, and then they're adding on to it. They're just doing this ladder approach where you do your 1-2, then you're throwing in a 10, a 9, or whatever, and then like a 14.
That stuff was. Yeah, it's all like was so new to me, man.
Yeah.
But that was really cool, man. So yeah, it's awesome to see you involved in that and progressing in that, and I can say personally, just from going there, like great people and everything like that. So at some point we'll probably have some of the Atomic folks on the podcast, I imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to be expanding the classes here pretty soon, so we'll have to have some folks on to talk about that and history of jiu-jitsu and just kind of basic philosophies. Because I think I saw a really great video yesterday about kind of the self-defense aspect, versus the sport aspect, but they go well together.
And it's cool that they have both. And I know there's, I guess, probably different literal schools and schools of thought on it. But I mean, for me, and I think especially for like maybe older, people, it's like, obviously the self-defense and just that aspect is more appealing, right? It's like real world application. It's like, I'm not, and I'm pretty sure you're not like, hey, we're going to go out and start competing, right? That's not really the MO, right?
No.
So I think like that's a definitely the kind of school I would want to be involved in for sure at this age.
Cool. So the very first Skunk Fest, right? So we were talking about the Heart of Texas or the Texas Rock Fest, and you were like, oh man, you should just do your own. And you're like, I will. So that was 2018.
18.
Yeah. So how did you organize it? Like, how did you go about it?
I mean, really, it sort of, just from years of playing and just knowing lots of bands and having a good relationship with the guys that Come and Take It Live, because we had put on shows there before, not anything of that magnitude, but I had a good, comfortable relationship with them. And one of the co-owners, Ben Davis from Dirty Dog, who anybody who's an Austin rock metal band knows the Dirty Dog, and we all came up and played there and had many, many great shows at that place. So, it was just kind of, when that place opened, it was Grizzly Hall initially, right? It had gone through some different places. It was called Grizzly Hall with the big moose head in the back and the bear and the whole thing. And they revamped it and became Come and Take It Live. And so I think, I had already been putting on events, and kind of booking shows and putting together bills and stuff for years. And that was just sort of the next step, was like, well, let's just do a whole day. Let's just do a whole festival. And then kind of have gotten, when I was with Lone Star School of Music, they were a sponsor. And that's another thing I really enjoy about it, is featuring students, right? Whether they be, I've featured young kids, one of my best students ever, Ethan Smith, who got up and played Master of Puppets with us. I think that one might've been 2019. And then in 2022, he played some classical guitar that was just mind blowing. He had Chris Duarte asking him questions, and I thought it was so fitting that, Chris was like just the nicest guy. Chris Duarte is such a great guy. And another guest we had on the podcast, and I've always been a Chris Duarte fan, both of his as a phenomenal musician and player and performer, but also as a person, just an absolute. When I was much younger, he was the first guy that ever signed. I have a guitar that's been signed by a lot of people, and he was the first guy that ever signed it, and just the nicest guy when I was just sort of this, teenager who had just started playing guitar. And I saw him open up for Joe Satriani and was just like, oh my God, who's this guy? And so having Chris Duarte and other people on that bill was very special. And I just thought it was so fitting. He, as part of the raffle that year, we always have a raffle. He donated one of his original, signed pedal, some kind of foot pedal, guitar pedal, and Ethan won it, so I just thought that was super cool.
Huh.
And but yeah, doing stuff like that. I always feature my adult class band, which I play. I get to get on the drum kit for that, which is fun for me. And so we've got a few students featured this year, just like always. But yeah, that was all. I don't know if we did that on the first one, but I've been doing it ever since. And just getting sponsors. So I've always had the school involved. And now I teach at this location was bought out by Velocity Music Academy. And they've been great. I can't say enough good things about Velocity. And so they're a sponsor again. They were a sponsor in 2022 as well. I'll mention just some companies that I've been working with for years that always have just been great to me in multiple ways. Obviously, Tragan Guitars. I have my signature Skunk guitar. We've raffled things many times in the past, both at Rockfest and the first Skunk Fest. And I'm actually going to be debuting a brand new Tragan guitar, custom guitar at Skunk Fest this year. So that's exciting.
Nice.
I should have that hopefully in about a month or so.
Okay.
Ernie Ball's been super cool. Godan Guitars. I was a acoustic Siegel guitar player for years and years. Got on board with Godan, the parent company, there a few years ago, and we played NAMM shows and stuff. And they're always really cool about our events and everything. Doubleday, who we had, Walker Doubleday, was the last guest we had just a couple of weeks ago on the show.
A couple of weeks ago, that's right.
He showed us around, and we actually, one of the few or only, I think we've done like 2 location podcasts actually, and that was the one we actually went in. He showed us around the shop, a luthier here in Austin who worked for Collings for years, very high in boutique guitars, and then started his own. And these guitars are absolutely phenomenal. And Walker is such a great guy. So many people know and love and respect this guy. Just the nicest guy. He gave me his first build ever to take on a tour.
I saw that.
A Tele model, but Doubleday guitars. So I'm always wanting to plug them, man, because Walker has been so kind to me. Penny Rock Productions, as I mentioned before, and then I was thinking about this. I think our only return guest, I could be wrong here, but Dave Tucker, who was after Yuri, I think he was our second guest, which was just a ridiculous podcast, but so much fun. Just us talking about high school and
TT Boy Tucker. Yeah.
All this just ridiculous. If you want to just go have a laugh at nonsense, that's a good one. Yeah. But he started 5 Iron Woodworks because he's always been a builder in construction. He builds everything from playgrounds to
he built
furniture,
a stage.
He built a stage. He built a second stage for our outdoor festival in 2022, a mobile stage that we had the acoustic acts, including Ethan, perform on. So, I mean, obviously Dave is a part of this. He's always there to help, and he'll, I think, be making some personal, like customized, really cool items that we'll probably raffle off this year. So, cool. And you mentioned earlier, Fresh Baked Tees. They're going to be back, not with the actual trailer, but they will be back doing on-site printing. So we'll have T-shirts, as we always do, from Fresh Baked Tees being printed on-site. And once again, just like in 2022, we got Black Star Amplification backlining the show. So I hope I didn't miss anybody, but that's kind of the rundown of just sponsors and companies that are that are involved.
Going back to that very first one in 2018, offhand, do you remember the lineup on that one?
Oof. Man, geez, oh my God. What? Check this out. Here's the thing I've been doing, and we're actually revamping the website right now.
Okay.
And one thing I want to do on the new website is put a playlist, speaking of playlists, for every year, because I started doing this. I guess I just really love making playlists, but so I made one for every Skunk Fest. So here it is. The first Skunk Fest. I actually, sorry, not me, my uncle, Willie Blue Balls Johnson opened.
That's right.
And then My Madness, great friends of ours from San Antonio, My Madness played. So they're the official first band of Skunk Fest. I mean, they were stoked about that. Eyetooth, remember Eyetooth?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Lane Mott from Quarter Shackle, an original bassist for Good Rogering, who plays with another guy who's going to be playing this year, Charlie Marlowe, right? So you probably know him under a different name, but Charlie Marlowe's the stage name for the prior singer to Eyetooth.
Okay.
Southern Brutality, we're just our sort of rowdy Southern metal friends from Louisiana. We all got on stage and partied with them. Under No One, and some of these bands, I don't think, honestly, like several of these bands aren't even around anymore. I don't think. Under No One, we're good friends of ours from San Antonio, metal band. Finite Fidelity, who we've played so many shows with those guys, so many events. I've played almost every Skunk Fest. Inch of Dark, remember Inch of Dark?
Mm-hmm.
Into Dark Jerome, his band, he played. We've kind of had a lot of crossover with them. Plays trombone with a band, Caravan Thorn, who played in 2022.
Yep.
Love Caravan Thorn. And actually, a few months ago, they put out a new single called, oh, crap, what's the song called? I just can't remember these things. Come on, man. I had to write stuff down, like, mention this, but I can't remember. Okay, let's see. I just can't think of the song title. What's the new song? Because I'm featured on it doing like death metal vocals underneath.
Oh, really?
Underneath the beautifulness of Carrie's voice. It's an awesome song. I don't even know how to describe them. They're kind of jazzy and all that, but they've got this dark quality that's so cool, man. Wow, they've got a lot of
Got Me Fooling. Is that it?
No, Rage. That's what it is.
Rage. Oh, Rage. Okay.
Yeah, so I was in the studio doing a song with another guy, Tyler Olfers, who longtime friend of Sammy, our bass player, and myself as well. And Sammy was playing bass. This was a song they had for years. We went in the studio, Grape Jam Studios. Adam, who's also on the podcast with Carrie from Caravan Thorn, and all this kind of stuff. And we had popped in there to just do guitar and bass on a song. And he was like, "Yeah, Caravan Thorn's got a new one. We want to have you guest on it." And I was like, "Oh, well, what is it?" "Oh, it's just like growling vocals on a chorus." And I was like, "Oh, well, let's just do it right now." So we just like, that just happened that day. So there's so much crossover, and that's one thing that I love about it is like, it's just all friends, and Caravan Thorn is going to be the same thing. They're going to be collaborating on a Good Rogering song, actually. So we've got some different, we have Suki out in California, who I really love to get on the podcast because she's putting out an EP. And we get more into that later, but yeah, we've got a few different collaborations, dude. Like, I'm not even mentioning something that's going to happen that's going to be so badass, like probably next year. It's in the works. It's going to be really cool. So that, and then RuneScarred, that was RuneScarred. I think it was RuneScarred's debut show. I can't remember.
Okay.
But it was a very early RuneScarred show. So the headliners were RuneScarred, and then obviously a Good Rogering. That was the first Skunk Fest. Yeah.
So if we want to create a playlist with this first one, this is gonna be tough, right?
No, yes and no, because I would say I would like to use bands that still exist.
Okay.
So that in of itself eliminates half of the bands.
Yeah.
I do know that sometimes bands go away and they come back. I mean, a Good Rogering had a hiatus for about 3 years, after our Lifeblood album. So
like 3 weeks. Kind of like the podcast.
3 weeks, like the podcast. Yeah. Just, those short little hiatuses that tend to happen in life. So I feel like if we were doing this is going to get tough. Are you taking notes while I look over this stuff?
Yeah. I was thinking like, maybe I should take some notes. Let's see.
Like we could literally build the playlist while we're talking, but are we just we're that lazy, I guess.
We are lazy. Yeah. Okay. So I would
say I want to put My Madness on there because they're great friends. They're great supporters. And we just have always had a really great relationship with those guys. For instance, last time we played, two bands now have covered a Good Rogering songs, and that's just so cool to see when a band covers your song. And My Madness was the first one to do it with the Snail, and I got on stage and sang it with them one time. But yeah, they covered our song. They're great guys. I'm a fan of theirs. So I think I would put My Madness on there. Probably put Finite Fidelity on there because they played almost every Skunk Fest. And it seems very self-serving to put RuneScarred and a Good Rogering on there, but that kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Now you got me looking through the playlist. So let's see, because I mean, obviously a Good Rogering. RuneScarred played the next one. So did they. Snakeskin Prison played. Everybody knows we had them on the show too. Snakeskin Prison.
Yeah,
that was the other live one we did. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
2019. So I'm kind of going to fire through these now. Yeah.
Okay. So 2019. Yeah. So I remember we did what was it? Album launch or EP? What was it? It was at Come and Take It Live.
I think it might have been their EP. I think. Yeah. Matt Ballingee's always throwing great events. I learned kind of a lot from him just watching the events he threw over the years.
And that's where he was saying that he liked Fred Durst or what was it?
What? I don't remember that.
No.
Huh? I don't know. Was I as drunk as Matt gets that night or something? I don't.
You probably were.
Matt giving a shout out to Fred. Were you that drunk? That sounds weird.
Oh, I don't know.
I can't keep up with what happens at a Snakeskin Prison show.
Who can? Yeah.
You know what? Okay, look at this one. This one is like, okay, so the first one was a little shorter, more
that's right.
Rock and metal.
Yeah, rock and metal. Yep.
The next one we had the VIP. We had this fantastic catering and all that, and this one went very much sort of like which I've kind of done. 2022 was different, but usually kind of start more slow acoustic rock and build, and then the metal bands at night, right? And so I'm looking at 2019. Skunk and Sarah actually started that one off.
Okay.
And then remember, and I think at this point too, we probably had the school band that was one of the early acts.
Yes.
But obviously there's no original music from them, but there's I might end up recording some, but Luke and the Lonely was a band on that one.
Okay.
And Bobby Bookout, dude. So we got to put Bobby Bookout on the playlist because Bobby's played multiple Skunk Fest. In fact, I think Bobby, hopefully by next year, will have his bar. Him and Ben will have a bar open. Yeah. And obviously when that happens, we'll do some sort of, whether it's a Skunk Fest or something else, we'll definitely do an event there. I mean, I've always been tight with Bobby. Great dude. Another one of our podcasts. Maybe we should have a thing. You can only be on our playlist if you've been a guest. I'm looking like most of these people have been guests, right? Yeah. I mean, Bobby, Ferris City Fire, but they're no longer around. But we did have Brian Wolf on the show.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
One of our longest podcasts, which is really saying something because we had a lot of long podcasts, but he was, I think he was like over 3 hours talking to that dude. Brian's a great guy. I went on his podcast when he had one. Yeah, Finite was on it again. 333, kind of an established band that's been around. They've gotten really good. I saw them open for when Bull Los Buffaloes did their kind of Austin Friends show that I popped on stage. It had a lot of guests, all these different guest musicians for every song.
Yep.
And Penny Rock's doing like a documentary there, so I think they were filming that. And 333 opened that, was one of the openers. They were really good. And then the Crown. So Rune started Good Rogering, and then the Crown closed that one. Mark Coronado, who we've worked with a lot in music videos and who has also drummed a few times with a Good Roger. He's kind of our drummer in like a pinch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Next year after that, Wild Tinderbox. I don't think they're around anymore. Edge of Destiny.
So this was 2021?
Yeah, because 2020 didn't happen.
Yeah, 2020 didn't happen. Okay.
Yeah, 2020 ended up being like a show where I think a band that's going to play this year, Torrid Complex, played.
Okay.
But it wasn't really a Skunk Fest because everybody, it ended up just being like a bill with them and, just a normal 4-band kind of thing. But I think they did play that. So then we had, sad RIP to Nathan Alvarez. What a great staple of the Austin community. Stupid Drama played that year and he passed away last year. But Stupid Drama played that year. Snakeskin Prison was on again. So we definitely got to add them because they were on 2 Skunk Fests.
Okay.
Welburn Road, which I'll have on a future one. Really great friends of ours from Houston.
Yep.
10-4, which was another incarnation basically of Torrid Complex, who's playing again this year. Outlook Grim, love those guys. They actually closed that year and they started their own festival called Grimfest, which is, I want to say it's October 26th out in San Marcos.
Okay.
At a place called, I think it's called Rangars on the compound or Ragars. I've never actually played there. I've heard a lot about it, but yeah, so those are great guys. 333 is playing that festival too. So some of the bands that aren't playing this year, it's simply because they had a festival a few weeks prior to ours. Yeah. It's kind of, in the same general area. So
what was the group that Pearl played with at one of the Skunk Fests?
I'm glad you said that. Hang on. I'm going to come back to that. I'm looking at the 20. Well, no. I'll come back to 2021. I'm glad you said that. And I'm looking at Spotify playlists instead of the actual flyers.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I didn't cite them because they never actually put any music on Spotify. I don't even know if Pearl had music on Spotify. She had that song we really liked, but I don't think it was on Spotify. They were called Brown Kids. It was her and Yayo. Her playing guitar and singing, and Yayo drumming.
Okay.
That's all it was. 2-piece. And they were great, but they were only around for like 5 minutes. They played Skunk Fest and
now she just put out a couple of singles or
she's
a single.
Got singles, and I think she still plays with Kalu and the Electric Joint.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those guys. Yeah, which are little, they've got I imagine, with some management and booking agency and all that. And so I see them doing some pretty cool things. Back to 2021. Welburn Road, Pure, which is, I think, no longer. Broken to Brave, those are cool dudes. Love those guys. Itched Up, like I said, love those guys. No 10 Gods, which I did that first EP with them. Over at Evil Snail Studios, where Good Rogering has recorded our Systematic Paralysis album. Also recording some new songs over there with Kafir Gov. Really like working with him. So finally, a Good Rogering's got some new music like coming, but we always take a long time. But in fairness, we're all doing a zillion things.
Yeah.
So that was that. And then 2022 was a whole different thing, right? 2022, we had Jared James Nichols coming in headline. And Jared is just a phenomenal musician and a great guy.
Yeah. Super cool dude.
I can't say anything but positive things about Jared. And same with Chris Duarte, who we talked about earlier. Just one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet and gracious enough to do our podcast. So the whole theme of that Skunk Fest, I went way more sort of like the old blues, rock, very blues, right? We had
Stoney Curtis.
Stoney Curtis from who's out in Vegas, who's originally from Chicago.
Great show, man.
Yeah, so it was just 1, 2, 3. I mean, the end you had Jared, you had Chris, you had Stoney. They were just blowing minds, man. Every one of those bands came out, just killed it. Yeah, they were just insane. It was so good. And then Jelly Ellington, who lived in Austin. I think he's still in Asheville, North Carolina now. He had kind of a tragic situation occur right around that time. But I really wanted him to play the show, so we made sure we could. We even tried to raise a little money for him at that Skunk Fest through our raffle. And then we had Finite again, so that's 3 for them, I think. Bobby was on it again. Caravan Thorn, which I mentioned. Great guitar player Darren Lane and David Polkingham. Haven't met him personally, so I'm messing up his name, and it's acceptable. But they did classical. I mean, those guys are just disgusting. Natalie Price.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. On the second stage. That's right.
Yeah, Natalie. Yeah, that was Darren, Ethan, Natalie. These were all on the second stage. Tyler, who I mentioned that Sammy and I collaborated on a song with, and then Susanna Lee. They were all on that second. And then there was another band, a guy that I met at a NAMM show playing Gibson stage one year. This dude has a band called Ethos of Isba. I don't know if you were there and you remember those guys that kind of
sounds
jammy
familiar.
Prog rock, dude. They were awesome, man. Yeah. So but it was a very different festival. There was really nothing metal about it, and even a Good Rogering, it was so late and it was so cold that we really, what I had hoped for, really didn't pan out. But Chris Duarte stayed and jammed. Scott Blanco from Finite jammed. And the band jammed, and we just had we actually played Mr. Peanut at that show, which we never do because we had horns. We had Jerome from Caravan Thorn get up, and then we just did a big Thrill Is Gone blues jam after our set and all that. So, I mean, it was different, but it's just I can't say enough good things about that roster, man. I mean, I know good music, dude. I mean, this is what I do. So I know that anyone who was there was like, holy shit. It was good stuff, man. Yeah, and here we are back in 2023. So I guess I'll give the rundown on this one real quick.
Yeah.
Right quick. Yeah, let me find
all right, who we got?
Now. Right, so this year, actually, it's funny looking at the playlist, it doesn't tell all, because now that I think about it, a Good Rogering and Runescarred were not the headliners. I had tribute bands headline the first few. I had Slaterica, which was a band that Mark Coronado from The Crown is in, and then Keith from Snakeskin Prison, longtime friends, some of these other bands that have played Skunk Fest. They played it's in the name, right? Slaterica, Pantera, Metallica covers. They headlined the first Skunk Fest. I got up and sang Cowboys from Hell with them, and I had gotten on stage with Finite. I had done the Willie Blue Balls thing. I played.
You were on stage a lot. I remember. I
played with Under No One. I was on stage half the show, and then full sets back to back with Runescarred and a Good Rogering. I was absolutely exhausted, and every little bit of what I had left in the tank, it took out of me doing Cowboys from Hell with them, and then I got a piece of cake stuffed in because we had a Skunk Fest cake, and I got that put in my face by Sarah that year, which was super funny and fun. But quick side note, funny story about that. We had a sponsorship that year from Juiceland, because Sammy worked for Juiceland. It was an awesome sponsorship because we had all this juice backstage, which was the best thing. And I went backstage just chugging straight out of a gallon. We just had cups and we had gallons of different juices, right? Of beet juice. I just picked up, and it was actually delicious. It was delicious.
Yeah.
And I just picked this thing up. I chugged like half a gallon of beet juice after I got off that last set. And
did you scare yourself the next day?
Dude, I woke up the next morning like so exhausted. I had pee, and I peed red, and I was like, oh my God, like what? Oh Jesus. Like, and I was like, oh yeah, the beet juice. Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I was on stage so much that, I mean, and it's inevitable. I usually do sit in. I'm going to sit in with Charlie Marlowe for a few songs because the Invincible Czars did a collaboration with him where I played Rhodes, and I'm going to play keys with him. And you know, the class band. So it's inevitable. I'm always with a few different acts, but that year was super intense because I mean, I was back-to-back full sets plus sitting in with 3 or 4 other acts. And, where I was going with that, we had Slayterica, then we had a Megadeth tribute band, Rest in Peace, in 2019.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And then in 2021, I don't think we did. So 2021, let me go look at that playlist again. Who was the headliner? Oh, I think The Crown was the actual headliner that year. Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. That was, no. That was Outlet Grimm. Okay. That was Outlet Crown. Crown was the year before that when the Megadeth band played. Okay. So, yeah. So my point here is we are bringing back a tribute band closer, Learn to Swim. And Learn to Swim is just like, they're one of the best tribute bands. And there's a lot of tribute bands, right, going around now. There's so many tribute bands, and there's a lot of really, really good ones too. But Learn to Swim, they have really established themselves as kind of a cut above. And they play a lot of the shows they play with, you know, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Corpus, whatever. I think they're kind of in the upper echelon clique of like, these are the tribute bands, right? Whether it's a Pantera, System of a Down, whatever. And and so they had gone, they were searching for a new singer, found a new singer. And so this is kind of like hey, everybody, we've got a new singer, and our big official, you know, here he is kind of thing is going to be Skunk Fest. So they're closing out the night, Learn to Swim, a tribute to Tool. And then A Good Rogering is going to be before that, playing our Lifeblood album. Torrid Complex, who's been on the bill in various forms before, is coming back. So that's kind of a reunion in a way. Brutality Incorporated, great kind of just old school punk band, like punk the way it should be. And they're super fun. Houston, just kind of an icon of you know, everybody knows him from his band and just running sound and being on the scene for years and years. Really, I mean, he was in the Backroom movie. These guys were in that movie talking about, you know, they came up together with Mike Watson, one of our first guests on the show, who from Dangerous Toys, also in Brutality. So those are longtime friends, and that's going to be a really cool band to finally, I've been wanting to have them on forever. So Brutality Incorporated. Some of these other bands now in the evening are this band Von Tez, who we've played, A Good Rogering's played with a few times. They're from Lubbock. And these guys, they tour around. They're really good. And they just treated us great, man. They're just great dudes. So I wanted to have them on. Big fan of theirs. Same with another band called the Intemperate Sons from Dallas. They've come down and played Hanovers with us a few times. Killer band. Awesome dudes. And then a band that I just love and we always have fun with, Knuckle Sandwich, which is, they're right down the road from you. You should come to one of these parties. They're having one on the 26th. Problem is, I have a very long recording session the next day, so I don't think I'm going to make it. But we played. They always have like a Halloween time party. They always have these different, you know, a couple parties per year. The guy that's got a little, you know, house in Kyle area, built a bar with a stage and a bar, and said, you know what, I'm just going to build my own venue, and that's what it is, and it's awesome. So they throw these parties and they'll have like fajitas or burgers or whatever. And you go there and there's a pool and there's whatever. And then they have a room you go into and it sounds good. And there's a refrigerator full of beer and there's a bar with whatever you want and a band playing. And we had an absolute blast playing their last, you know, a party. I think that was early March this year we did that. So longtime friends with these guys. They're on the bill. Tarantula Mountain is on the bill. We had them on the podcast. Relations there to Penny Rock Productions, longtime friends. Mark Coronado's the drummer. There's so much crossover. We got Jay Salem, a guy that I met years ago through Ulrich, who we had on the podcast because it was an album he had produced, this dude, Jason Patton. And we had been talking about, when he has something I'd love to play. So he's one of the early bands. Witch Diaries, affiliated also with Velocity. And John, quote unquote, the Witch, he played some guitar solos and had a hand in some stuff on the Lifeblood album. So he's going to get on stage with us.
Yeah.
And do some of that as well. Head Rush, the Velocity adult band that I've been, doing thing with now for years, is going to play. Another student of mine, dude Trenton Twinning, is he's going to play. And then Charlie Marlowe. And then I think we don't have it on the flyer right now, but remember Justin James Bridges? Remember talking to him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dude, I just went to his festival he just had in San Marcos, and it was awesome. It was so great. And his daughter got on stage, and she's like 7 years old. The confidence of any rock star I've ever met in my life, blowing the harmonica, doing beats. We're backstage with her, and she's like, yeah, I'll sign an autograph. She's just like the coolest kid ever. I was like, dude, I don't know what you've done as a parent, but you're doing it right. Like, so freaking cool. And I was like, man, I've known this guy for such a long time. He's got such a he's like me. Like, he really always is trying to be communal and cares about the scene. He used to do all these big festivals. He was an advocate, obviously. I mean, what a story, right? People could listen to the podcast, but an advocate for legalizing marijuana, ended up being beaten in a wheelchair.
Yep. Came
through all that. And here he is back in Texas, where we met 15 years ago or whatever, doing the same thing I'm doing, making music, putting on festivals. So I really want to get him involved. And I think we're going to squeeze him in and add him to the bill. So that is Skunk Fest 20, whatever the year is, 2024. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope everybody comes out. Tickets are on sale, and we're revamping the website, which is skunkfestatx.com. And you can go right there to the ticket link. You could also go to the calendar at Come and Take It Live. Of course, there's a Facebook page, and got the event and all that on there. But
November 16th. Right?
November 16th. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Coming up soon.
Well,
let's see what else. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Because I did. I wanted to throw out, we, hold on a second. Yeah. Everybody check out that Quarter Shackle remaster.
Oh, that's right.
Too hard on that thing for people not to listen to it. I have a new single that came out a few weeks ago called Baby I'm Trying on my, it's like more of my softer John Lennon wannabe side or something, but like kind of piano rock ballad stuff.
Got Yoko in the background on that one.
Yoko screaming, just a bunch of. It's just me playing piano while Yoko screams. I'm gonna plug our friend Sukanya, who I don't think we ever had her on, did we?
No,
I want to have her on because she's about to release her EP by the time
we had.
Out, might be on.
We did have. What was the guy's name where you and her recorded in his studio, and he had all the Michael Jackson. Jeff, yeah.
Yeah, so we recorded with Jeff. Jeff Lewis, who plays with Tierra, and he played with the Jacksons in the 70s. Yeah, who learned trumpet from blowing on a garden hose. That was a great podcast. Yeah. I got to give us credit, man. We've had great guests. We've had a lot of interesting stories and really cool guests, and I'm excited to be, after that long 2 week wait, to be bringing this back. And I think we're gonna have. We've already got some really, really good guests waiting in the wings. And I want to give a shout out to John Bleicher at Prospect PR for throwing us some great guests. I think we've got more. Forever I've just been going, we're kind of on hiatus, man, thanks for staying. He's constantly stayed in touch, and I'm like, we're finally bringing it back, man. So we should have some great artists. I mean, if you just go look at that guy's roster, you'll know what we mean. He's worked with unbelievable names, and the Invincible Czars did PR with him when we toured on, I think it was the Nosferatu tour, man. But so we get some really, really good guests out of that too. But Runescarred released a single called 2/3 earlier, and Runescarred's got 3 or 4 new songs actually that have been recorded that are going to be kind of trickling out. So haven't been totally idle, even though the last show was played in February of this year and it's kind of on hiatus. That band has been busy with some recordings. Good Rogering's back in the studio. Huge fan of the opera thing. The Invincible Czars are working with engineer Jason Schimmel, known for his band. He played with Tim Smollins from Stratosphere. He plays in Trace Bruance's band Secret Chiefs 3. Trey from Mr. Bungle has the Czars engineering that.
Has the Czars come up with any other covers? Because I know for a little bit there was the ZZ Top, and then there was the Van Halen covers.
Yeah, the Van Halen one, that was another one I got to showcase my gut.
Yeah.
But I was proud of myself. My David Lee, I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody with my David Lee Roth kicks, man. That was one of the most fun videos I've ever filmed. That was really fun.
That was a great video.
And the Another Handout video were were some of the funnest music videos I've ever been a part of.
Yep.
Yeah, so no, we haven't really done because it's just been so busy. I actually did do vocals on there's their very first album is called Gods of Convenience that came out in like 2005 or something. And I think this song is from that, and it's going to be like a 20-year anniversary. So whatever, I guess, it's going to come out next year. It's a 20-year anniversary. Great song called Doctor's Excuse. Josh wanted to re-record it. Yeah. And so I do vocals on that song, vocals and bass, actually. Okay. So that'll be a single coming out next year. And dude, there's things I've heard that Josh is like me, though. That just got like unbelievable mountain of music that's kind of like somewhat done, but just sitting around. And yeah. So there's a whole Iron Maiden album, man. I don't know if we talked about that. There's a whole album already recorded of Iron Maiden songs.
Really?
Czarified. Yeah.
Wow.
It's called Gospel of the Beast.
No way.
And I hope it comes out because it's awesome. And I re-recorded, like I did piano for one of the tunes. I don't even remember what the tune was at this point, but yeah, because they're reimagined. Yeah. But there's a lot of Czars material. There's a whole album of, I don't even remember what it is, some classical piece that's on vinyl. So I think we're going to be selling that on the next tour, actually.
Okay.
So we'll finally have vinyl available, and then obviously there'll be the DVDs for the films and stuff that's always available. But yeah, new artwork and soundtrack, all that stuff's getting done with the Czars right now for a huge tour in 2025. People in Texas, if you're interested in silent film and that kind of stuff, I mean, Invincible Czars maybe playing your city, go check them out on the website. It's just the only time this has happened since COVID, well, other than COVID, right? That wasn't like a full U.S. tour. Let's see what else. Just want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything on this comeback episode. Yeah, I guess we'll finish out our playlist, Skunk Fest. I like that. Yeah, I'm stoked about just looking at some of these potential guests, man. So I think this is gonna be cool. And for us, this was pretty short, right? I mean, yeah. It's an improvement. It's not 3 hours of political rambling. Not that we were political ramblings. I would get a little out of control here and there, but yeah, man, it's going to be cool to come back.
Absolutely. No. I mean, we've got some folks lined up with some interesting talks. A little more jiu-jitsu talk, a little more music talk, and every single one of those we're going to have a playlist that we build out of. So that's probably the biggest change on this comeback, is just generating playlists, being living up to the title, right? The Eclectic Soundtrax.
Yes, we kind of got a revamped logo, and we've got I think you can find our stuff on all the usual places, Spotify, Apple, but also like I think there were some things I didn't know about, like YouTube, right? Like we kind of have episodes cataloged on YouTube, but tell me again, are the playlists going to exist on YouTube or Spotify, or how is that working? Because you're the one that kind of is doing this, I think.
Yeah, so Spotify for sure. I need to go back because we moved to a new publisher, right? So we were using Anchor, which turned into Spotify for podcasters. We're trying something out with Red Circle, and Red Circle allows us to publish to Spotify, Apple. I think Google does podcasts. I didn't know that. And then also it'll let us publish a video directly to YouTube. So really cool. Like it's just upload to Red Circle and let it do the work and distribute it, which in the past we had to do all that. Yeah, we had to do all that. So
we're trying to minimize the post-production
post-production. Yeah.
No time.
Absolutely. And so and then of course we're still using Riverside, so we'll see how this works out. Yeah.
Well, it seems like it worked today, other than my mic cutting out. It was only that one time, right? Like overall sounded okay.
Yeah, just that one time.
Cool deal.
But yeah, all right, we're back.
You got your sign off planned?
No, just the intros. Okay. I figure I'd leave the sign off to you.
Oh, that's it. Bye.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, bye, guys.
Cool. Well, I think we recapped pretty well, and this is what we always did on the old ones. When I say we, I mean me, just sort of rambling on when it was time to leave. So I won't do that today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. It's really exciting to be back, and we're looking forward to having many, many new guests, conversations with many fascinating people, and then
new playlists,
like making these playlists so people can hear and be exposed to different music. So until next time, which won't be two very, very long weeks. We will see you again. Take care of each other and yourselves. Right. I think I stole that tagline, but do it anyway. All right. Next time.
Yep.
See ya.
Awesome. Laters.